Tell me,
I hear you.
is it you?
Is it you? Hey, now y'all probably haven't heard of marriage as a catapult before. And it just kind of something that actually came to my wife. I had told her of some things the Lord was telling me about our marriage and how we worked as a unit. Me and my wife, you know, we married as Christians, went to church Sunday. That was it. Your hour out of the week, that was our church. You know, we got more into the charismatic movement, and we did more functions, and, you know, she was into the Spirit. I spoke tongues, but, you know, I mean, that was about it. So here my wife was. She had this desire to have this man of God, and I just had this desire to, you know, watch my sports on the weekends, do my work during the week, and that was our life. So, and as most people probably can notice, or one of the reasons why probably most marriages fail is because there's not that unity there. The wife has this usually this higher level of expectation from her husband, and the male just wants to coexist with the wife. And, you know, we did that for quite a while, and, you know, it worked. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but it worked. And so once God finally got a hold of our heart and we turned it over to Him, and I started growing into the Spirit and started to become I guess you could say, a man of God. What God had called me to be, our marriage really started to take off because I was in my position. You see, the funny thing is when you have a man who's not in his position, it makes it difficult for the woman. Not only is she usually nagging on the man to do this or do that, or why aren't you like this, why don't you do that, or blah, 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 blah. She not only has to fulfill her wifely role, but in the spirit realm, she also has to fulfill this manly role, the husband role. She therefore takes this office, I guess you could say, of the husband, because she's not getting it from her earthly husband. So therefore she has to she goes into the role, or goes through the motions of being a strong person, strong-willed, you know, like the man is, I'm tough as nails type of a thing. But so it's interesting to see women that are married and they have a husband who aren't picking up their other end of the deal. And you know, the women do go in both roles, and it's nothing bad. I can't say, I can't fault the woman. She's just moving how she has to move because she's not getting it from the man. And I assume that, you know, if I didn't get off of my butt and let God have my heart, my wife would probably be walking in that role at the moment. So it was funny. I'll tell you a quick little story. I have a friend outside of the ministry. She's a very, very powerful woman, and I share a lot of things with her and whatnot. I don't really call her my spiritual mom or not, but she sees, you know, where I'm going, and she goes, I'm part of this women's thing. It's an international association. A lot of people are a part of it. It's women's, I don't know, women Bible study type thing. That's a national thing. And she goes, we'd all get together, and the women, they all wanted us to pray for their husbands. Now, the husband wasn't walking in his role. The husband wasn't a man of God. So we would pray, and we would pray, and we would pray, and by golly, God would answer our prayers. And then the women would come and they'd bitch because the husband's walking around in his godly role, telling them what to do and being the head of the household. I thought that's what they wanted. Well, you know, I guess when you wear both shoes on your feet for so long, you kind of get used to it. So, anyways, I'm getting back to this marriage as a catapult thing. So it was really kind of new for both of us. My wife finally got the husband that she had always desired to have, and I started walking in the role that God had always wanted me to walk in. So basically, I started thinking about this. I said, wow, okay, once we first started to enter into the Spirit and to really receive revelation and start to build upon that line upon line, precept upon precept thing, you know, our lives started changing, questions would come about. You know, and it was interesting. Who do you go to answer questions? But we don't have that couple that we can really look up to and say, okay, you know, both the man and the wife was walking in their roles like they're supposed to be, and it's just, you know, we can really be mentored here. So we kind of just had to go to God and say, okay, you know, give it to us. Lay it all out on the line for us and just give it to us. So my wife would start to have questions about stuff, and obviously she'd come to me. And I'd be thinking to myself, I don't have a clue, you know? So I'd just start to pray. And what would happen here is my wife is wanting to be fed by her husband, okay? Typical scenario. Every woman probably desires that from their husband. So my wife comes to her husband for direction, for discernment, for understanding, for revelation, for all of that stuff. The husband, such as myself, knew all of this stuff. I have to take it to God. I'm like, I don't know what she's asking, Lord. Can you kind of explain this to me? You know, if it was the parable of the sower, or if it was this, you know, if she had a question about what was going on here, what was going on there, you know, and the Lord would start to say, okay, well, this is what it's about. This is what you need to tell her. This is the understanding of her questions. This is how it's going. So we eventually become like this self-contained unit type of a thing, okay? My wife needs to be fed. She comes to her husband. Well, her husband that doesn't have the revelation to answer her has to press in deeper with God to get the revelation, okay? Do you see where we're going here? The wife needs feeding. The husband needs to continue to walk in his role, okay? Thus, she is catapulting the husband into a deeper relationship with God, thus understanding deeper revelation. Thus, he comes back to her and mentors her and feeds her. Okay? So, let's say, you know, let's go like this. You know, it goes boom, 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 boom. You see where we're going here? Line upon line, precept upon precept. You know, it's funny when I first started going through stuff, it's like, okay, my wife would come along a month later. I'm like, well, okay, well, I just got this last month. Boom, I give it to her. I get some more stuff. I give it to her. I get some more stuff. I give it to her. Over and over and over. We build this foundation, build this wall, line upon line, precept upon precept. We've been talking about this for a couple years now. So it catapults me into a deeper relationship because I'm walking in my proper role, okay? I'm walking in where God has called me to walk into. Thus, we become this self-contained unit. You know what? I said, if this is how God meant it to be with the couples, you could put me and my wife on a desert island somewhere and have no touch in the outside world, and we would be able to feed off of each other, build each other up into the couple of God that we are to be. So it's kind of interesting to kind of get this. And you know, and I'm the type of person I always like to analyze things. I analyze things for a living, unfortunately. So I like to analyze people, and I like to, you know, we have lots of friends. They have marriages, they coexist, and you know, I sit back and I kind of look at the role of the man, I look at the role of the woman, and they all fit the same role that, you know, I was in. Sports on the weekends, work on the weekdays, coexist in between. You know, I think that's probably the main problem we have here in America, especially here in America, that the men don't walk in their proper roles. They just want to be left alone. They just want to be kind of take over the female role. And because of that, obviously we've had the big movements back in the 70s, the feminist movements and whatnot. But the women, therefore, are being made by their other mate, their male mate, I should say, their husband, to take over both the female and the male role because the man is not willing to do it. The man is not getting off of his butt and being the man of God that he is supposed to be. Even if he's not a man of God, he's not even being a man. You know, I see this all the time. You can start analyzing people. Just start looking at their relationships and don't judge them. I mean, it's not I'm not judging anybody. I was there. It's just a lack of revelation. That's all. It's just a lack of giving your heart over to God. You know, God wants all of our hearts. Okay, He doesn't need us for any other purpose but our heart. He created us for our heart because our heart is where our relationship is. That's where our emotion is. That's where God can really get us and work into us, is in our heart. You know, all the issues of life come from the heart. You know, we've heard this over and over and over. All the issues of life come out of the heart. God wants the man's heart. God can't do anything with the man unless he has his heart. Where your money is, your heart is. It goes all around. Everything deals with the heart. Every issue, everything we deal with deals with the heart. So if the man does not have his heart and hasn't taken his heart and given it over to God, it's rough riding for him. You can say you're a Christian, you can say you're doing this stuff, you can say anything you absolutely want to. But if your heart, if your heart is not given to God, it don't matter. It just doesn't matter. When you give your heart over to God, God is able to mold the man. I mean, this is the key thing here. You know, it was funny. Back in college, I did this term paper on woman abuse. And it's an odd topic for a man to pick. The teacher kind of gave me one of them weird looks, but I took it because God was starting to give me some things on it. And as I started doing my research, I had to watch a lot of film and documentaries and TV specials, and just read a lot of material dealing with woman abuse. And it's funny, in almost all the situations that dealt with a religious family, you know, Methodist, Catholic, Baptist, whatever it was, they always came out and said, well, you know, they gave the, the Ephesians verse, where, you know, the woman is supposed to be submissive to her husband. And I thought to myself, well, that's only part of the verse. That's only part of the verse. The reason why the woman is submissive to the husband is because he loves her as Christ loves the church. All right? Now, if we are the church, what did Christ do for the church? He laid his life down for the church, right? I mean, that's what he did. He also nurtured it. What did he do with the disciples? Okay, the 12 disciples, well, I guess the 11 disciples, was the church. Who was Peter? The rock. The rock. I will build my church upon the rock. He gave in to Peter. He gave in. He imparted. He was able to come with him on special journeys. The transfiguration. It is good for us to be here, Lord. Let us build tabernacles here in honor of the event here. So Christ. I mean, it's fun. All you got to do is look at what Christ did with his disciples. That was Christ loving the church, his disciples. Okay, it's not the building down the road. It's not the pew you sit in. He was building the church through his disciples. And look what he was pouring into. Look how he treated them. Yeah, he was abrupt and he was brash sometimes. You know, ye of little faith. Yeah, he was blunt and he was up for it, but it's because he loved them and he knew that he had to build them up, because that's where the church was going to come from, was them 11 guys, all right? So, getting back to all of this, the verse with, you know, the woman needs to be submissive to the husband, it's a bunch of baloney if you just take it out of context. The reason why the wife is submissive to the husband is because the husband loves her like Christ loved the church. Phenomenal, phenomenal. If you love your wife like that, your marriage is going to be pretty good. Ours has really taken off in this last year and a half. And I would just suggest also to you guys, learn a little bit about women. We went to a, I don't know, some weekend retreat type of thing. It was only for one day. You know, a lot of people go because their marriage is on the rocks or whatnot. We just went, my wife conned me into going because, you know, it was a spiritual event. Get the husband out and let's go do something spiritual together for once. And I don't know, that was 3-4 years ago or whatnot. But anyways, I was listening to this guy talk, and he was just talking about how the woman feels, what her domain is, and why the woman nags when things don't get completed. And it really got me to thinking, okay, wow. Okay, my wife stays at home with the kids, and so her house is her image. And this is what the guy was talking about. He goes, this is why, you know, when you don't do your honey-do list, she gets all upset. Oh my, you're not doing that. You're watching TV. Well, yeah, because when you're not doing your honey-do list, if you're not fixing up the house or fixing the leaky faucet or putting the new paint on the wall or whatnot, you're basically dishonoring her because that's her image. Okay, you're not doing the things that are important to her. You know, I don't care what your perception is or what you think she should be acting like, but it goes into just taking a little bit of time and saying, okay, how is my wife? What does she think? How does she move? What's going on in here? How can I help? How can I help build her up? It goes to the same thing, this catapult. We're going to look at the other end. I just showed you how the wife can catapult the husband. Okay, we're gonna kind of reverse this and show. So I'm gonna give you guys a little secret here, just a little secret. We've only got a couple more minutes, so I'll just end on this. If you start doing your honey-do list, you men out there, I mean, come on. If you start doing your honey-do list, what that does is it shows that you appreciate your wife. Okay. Let's start that. You got to start with a foundation. You have to have a foundational understanding. Yeah, you know, you may want your wife to move in the spirit, or you may think she needs to do this or do that. That's above the foundation. You need to build a foundation, and that foundation is a solidification of your relationship. Okay, if she doesn't think you love her enough to do things such as that, which is your job basically in a marriage, to do the manly things, to fix the faucet, to put down the new carpet, to paint the wall, to cut the trim, to do all of those things, to cut down the big apple tree out back, or to plant the bush. Those are things for you to do as a husband. And if you're not doing that, you're in her eyes, you're discrediting her. You don't think it's worth the time and the effort. It may be something silly. I've done things I thought were the silliest things in the world, but my golly, I had the biggest smile. My wife had the biggest smile on her face once it was completed, because I was not sewing into her. I was completing things that she wanted done because it dealt with what she felt was her image. Okay, especially if the wife doesn't work outside of the house. I mean, this is her image. When people come into the home, this is her image. All right. So anyways, we see how the wife and the man can work together as a unit. And when done properly in the face of God, when God has the husband's heart, he can truly work the marriage, because when the husband takes his rightful position, God can do wondrous things, not only through him, but also with his family. And when the man walks in the right position and he raises his children up that way as well, you're just creating this, I guess you should say, a pyramid effect. Here's the husband up here at the top. Down here you've got the children. You've got them getting married. How are the children going to be? They're going to act just like dad and mom act. They're going to look at mom and dad's marriage, and they're going to try to prototype theirs after that as well. All right? So it's up to you to raise up a godly generation. This has been Stingray. We're out of here.